Behold, it is I, the phenomenal interdimensional wizard, hailing from a place outside of space and time. But you can all call me Jeff. Welcome to Season 2 of Metal Slug, where we are upping the weirdness and discussing all things love and relationships. More metaphysical chicken nuggets with extra magic mango Szechuan dipping sauce. So cross your legs in the lotus position, take a deep breath and count to 3,000,000,002, and get ready to unravel the clusterfuck of last year's Christmas lights that your love life has become.
No, it would take a little over 90 years to count to 3,000,000,002.
All right, everybody, welcome back. Season 2, Episode 3. Jeff is back in town. How's it feel to be home, buddy?
Well, it's good to be back.
Yeah, did you have a good trip?
Yep, that we did. So
Cool.
got out of the country for a little bit, and didn't want to come back, but alas, here we are back in lame old Utah.
I mean, at least you had a place to come home to, right?
Yeah, that's true.
And I'm sure the cats would have noticed if you didn't show back up eventually.
I think they were relatively indifferent, but we had somebody to take care of them while we were gone. But
I mean, fair, there probably wasn't any spray bottle while you were gone.
Yeah.
All right. Well, man, it's good to have you back. I'm going to kick this off with a little segment I like to call Talking Points from the Internet. You ready to play along?
Alrighty, let's do it.
All right. So this episode is on accountability. So hello, I am accountable. All right, let's go over to the first slide. Remember, you can always change something when you take ownership and responsibility for it. What's your hot take on this, Jeff?
Well, it's true. I think it's like what we've been saying since the beginning of this podcast. I mean, ultimately, it's nothing changes until you get sick of your own bullshit. But ultimately, you might not be able to control what the universe throws at you, but you can always take ownership for how you choose to react to a situation, and a lot of times that's going to make all the difference.
Oh yeah. There's so many woe is me people out there that blame everything bad in their life on the universe or a higher power or a lower power or somebody else. And those are the people that never seem to be able to get their shit together.
Yeah, Mercury was in retrograde.
Any relationship that could get ruined by having a conversation about your feelings, standards, and or expectations wasn't really stable enough to begin with.
Oh, shizzle.
I feel like on this one, if you feel like you can't express yourself and have an honest conversation in your relationship, you might need some help.
Yeah. Well, indeed, but to be honest, this is something that I've kind of struggled with, and I could kind of blame childhood or relationship trauma or things like that. But I mean, in the end, we're talking about accountability. It's something that I've had to take accountability for, and learning to be more effective about communication, because in the end, unless you're able to communicate what it is that you're feeling, what it is that you're needing, then people aren't mind readers, and you're not gonna get what you need if you're not able to adequately express yourself.
Like for me in my past, it was not feeling like I could have an open, honest conversation about things that were bothering me because I was going to rock the boat and cause problems. Those
Yep.
were some very unhealthy relationships.
Oh yeah. I feel that, and I think ultimately, we can take a look at trauma schemas, whatever it is that you want to call them, to say it's something that probably started early childhood. I mean, both you and I kind of know a little bit of that whole just shut up, do what you're told, don't talk back kind of upbringing. But I mean, in the end, it's you have that awareness. You can either let that control you, or you can take a look at that and say okay, well, I can see how that might have affected the way that I communicate, or the decisions that I've made in the past. But with awareness comes I'm aware of this. it's up to me to do something about this. Like I can choose to do the work that's needed in order to fix this, instead of letting circumstances define who I end up becoming as a person.
Very true. If you stop looking for a shortcut and find your discipline, you will then find your freedom.
No, but that sounds like a lot of work.
It is a lot of work. It's a shit ton of work. It's true, though. I've never screwed myself over more than trying just shortcuts and trying to hyper focused on get rich quick bullshit schemes versus putting in the hard work. That's what's always screwed me in my past.
Now, wasn't it Mitch Hedberg who said, like, I'm tired of everybody telling me, follow your dreams, keep following your dreams. I'm like, that sounds like a lot of work. Can't I just like find out where my dreams are going and like meet up with them someplace later?
You can leave a toxic relationship, but if you don't heal what attracted you to them, you will meet them again, the same demon, just in a different person.
Yep.
Yeah, I've played this one out many a time too.
Oh yeah. Well, and throughout my dating experiences and whatnot in the past, it's something that I'll probably continue to reference. I'm pretty sure that I referenced the book earlier, and we'll probably continue to reference it. Conscious Loving by Gay and Kathleen Hendricks. One of the things that was kind of a slap in the face reading that, which, I mean, as you go throughout that book, I mean, every chapter is just a new slap in the face. It's, shit that you need to fix. But one of the things that they say is like, okay, like take a look at the situations that you've been in. Like if you've had the same shit happen 3 or 4 times or more than that, then there is obviously something that you are doing that's attracting that. And you need to take accountability to fix whatever's going on to break the cycle. So, like, I had to realize
true.
Ultimately, like, crap didn't change until, like, I took a look at the different cycles that were going on and took accountability to fix my shit. Well,
no, it was my experience too. I kept chasing the same red flag, just in different form, over and over and over again, until I decided I'm going to hit pause on this and figure some shit out before I go back in.
Oh yeah. No, and let's be honest. Like, I did have like a moment there where it's like I knew better. I knew better, and I decided.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes a bad idea is still a fun idea, so we give in.
Yeah. But I mean, when I said like, well, I fixed my shit. Well, let's be honest. I don't think anybody ever has all of their shit completely fixed. It's just
no, that is an ongoing.
I guess it just became more of a neat, organized turd pile than it was before.
Somebody once told me everybody comes into a relationship with baggage. You can either trip over each other's stuff or unpack it together. And that really hit me. The right person will help you unpack.
Yep. Well, I like this quote because I think when we go into different philosophies or rhetoric regarding dating or things like that, can kind of go down like one of two paths. It's like one where it's just you're chasing after any red flag that you possibly can, and just these people that are just desperate for some sort of companionship that they just take whatever scraps are offered to them. Like, or you also have the people that you can go the opposite direction where you become a little bit more aware of what's out there and the damage that people are carrying and all the different red flags or things like that. And then you become completely closed off because now you're waiting for that that perfect image of that person that has all of their shit together, that's done all their shadow work, that's conquered all their inner demons, and well, that person doesn't really exist. So, but I think the important thing with that is it does come back to this accountability though. It's like, is this somebody that's letting all of the crap that they've been through define who they are as a person, and they're holding on to that and not letting go of it, not taking any accountability. Just, hey, this is like, I am who I am. This is what it is. It's like, it's your responsibility to keep note of like all of my different issues that I've got going on, all of my potential triggers, and you have to like navigate through that maze if you want to be with me. Or are they saying like, hey, I've got my issues, I've got my baggage, I've got my crap that I'm working on, but like, I am dedicated to a growth mindset. I am dedicated towards evolving. I am dedicated towards moving forward and overcoming these issues. Like, yeah, it's not always, it's not always going to be like uh, puppy kisses and rainbows, but I'm not going to hold on to this. I'm not going to allow I might trip, I might fall, I might backstep, but I'm going to keep moving forward, and I'm going to get through this. I'm going to conquer this.
Shelby and I have both been through a lot of shit in our lives, but the nice thing is that we're at a place where if some of us, or if one of us is struggling with something, we can bring it up and we can actually have an adult conversation about it, and it doesn't turn into an argument. It's a legit conversation about feelings and emotions and how to work through things.
Oh yeah.
Which I haven't really experienced before.
Well, it's important to be able to get to that stage, but I mean, with that, there is also kind of like some important ground rules that I find like a lot of people don't quite, a little bit of help that people need when it comes to being able to talk about emotions and feelings and things like that. Things like kind of the rules that I try to use are if you got to bring something up, make sure that you're prefacing. You check with the person first. Say like, hey, instead of just sideswiping them, catching them off guard because you might get an adverse reaction if somebody's not prepared. Make sure you check first. Say like, hey, like, are you in a good place for me to discuss something with you that's potentially serious? And then like if they say like, hey, I got a lot of crap going on or whatnot, like you got to honor that. Be like, okay, like, would there be a better time for me to come back later to discuss this with you? But make sure that you're checking first instead of just
No, it's true. You have to be in the right mindset to have that conversation. Yeah. But if they tell you they're busy with something, you got to be able to come back to that and not just constantly, oh, they're busy for the next 6 months.
Oh yeah. So that there's one thing that I saw. It was I think it was in just like a YouTube video, just like a relationship couples counseling type things, different like pointers. Something that I saw there that I liked, and where it's the red light, green light, yellow light system, where it's where if you're just like checking in on each other and seeing like where they're at, it's kind of if you understand kind of where the other person is at emotionally, then you can be able to better gauge like, how do I interact with this person. So somebody's like, hey, green light, hey, they're doing okay or whatnot, then then you can probably say like, okay, well then like I got something that's potentially serious, like I'd like to talk to you about, if that's all right. But if somebody's like, if somebody's at like a red light, then it's kind of best to just kind of back away slowly, but just understanding where both of you are at emotionally. And that's kind of like a easy way to gauge it. Like, are you at a green light, or are you at a red light, or are you at a yellow light? If they know where I'm at and I know where they're at, then it makes it easy to be able to gauge how to best interact and how to best approach that. And of course the age old using the I statements. So things go over a lot better when you can approach somebody and be like, I am feeling like this right now. This is what I need, or this is what I'm hoping to get out of the situation. So,
when I was not quite going through my divorce yet, but we were headed that way, we had this horrible cycle of like being in bed. It's 10:30 at night, sometimes 11, and all of a sudden, well, I'm going to talk about this thing that pissed me off, and it's going to start an argument. Then we're going to stay up until 3:00 in the morning. Then we're not going to sleep, and then we have an infant, so we're not going to nap during the day, and then we're going to repeat this cycle. And so I was like, look, this isn't working. If it's 10 o'clock and we're in bed, we need to not talk about things of this nature that are going to lead to a fight. We don't sleep. We're agitated the next day, and it just keeps getting worse.
Well, that's just laying down some good old-fashioned boundaries.
Yeah, it didn't work, which is probably a contributing factor to why I was finally like, I'm out, I'm done, I'm not doing this anymore, because the ground rules made sense. It was perfect. It was there for a reason. When you're tired and cranky, it's not a good time to be talking about deep life issues and relationship issues and figuring things out. And it didn't stop. That wasn't honored. So I was like, I can't do it.
10 o'clock at night, like, are you at a green light, a yellow light, or a red light?
Yeah, I didn't get that option. I like this one. I forgive you, but we don't need to keep in touch respectfully.
Oh, yeah.
I think forgiveness is a big part of the healing process, but you can forgive somebody and not need them in your life anymore.
Oh, yeah.
This one could go either way. It says if she glows up after the breakup, you were the problem. If he glows up after the breakup, you might have been the problem too. I've seen this before where people have been in kind of some shitty, one-sided or abusive relationships, and then they split, and the one person just kind of blossoms. Well, I mean, hell, I have that picture of me like in October of like, right before I split up with my ex, and then I have the picture of me in January. I'm like smiling and I have color in my face, and I don't look like a walking corpse.
or that whole
Sometimes
thing.
closure arrives 2 years later on an ordinary Friday afternoon in a way you never expected or could have predicted, and you cry a little and you laugh a little, and for the first time in a long time you exhale because you are free.
Yep.
What's your hot take on this, Jeff?
Well, I think I do see a lot of people just torturing themselves with this whole idea of like, well, I'm just seeking closure. I'm just seeking closure. I need to find closure in this situation. I'm like, okay, well, are you really ever gonna find that closure, or are you just torturing yourself, kind of living all of that trauma and all of the things you didn't like about the situation over and over and over again, just refusing to allow yourself to move on because you're seeking this elusive closure. So
Closure, more often than not, even though we don't want to hear this, has to come from within when we make peace with the situation and move on. Closure
yep, exactly.
involving the other person has a much lower rate of success.
Oh, yeah.
Take accountability for your mistakes and be able to talk about them without shame or guilt is power. Also, being able to just admit your mistakes is still so powerful. There is no shame in saying, I may not have known better then, but I know better now.
Yep. I definitely like have that laundry list, taking accountability. Like I could definitely go back and take a look at the past and say, like, yeah, like I screwed up here. I screwed up here. This is definitely where I screwed up. Like yesterday, here's like 5 things I screwed up, but I know better now. I might still make some of the same mistakes over again, but hey, I know better anyway.
Well, I think in this take, being able to talk about something without shame or guilt, that means you have closure with that experience with yourself.
Yeah.
So you've kind of completed that process. You've understood it. You've learned what you need to learn from it. You're able to move on and you're able to express it and share it without going back to that dark place. I think that might be, that's the last one.
Yeah, I think that's, that's something that I read somewhere that said, we're talking about closure. So that's really how you know that you've met closure is when you can go and when you can talk about a difficult traumatic experience that you've been through without it being triggering, without it reactivating all of the emotions and having to relive that trauma, which I guess kind of can be easier said than done if it's a legitimate like PTSD type situation or whatnot, but I mean ultimately it's because not everything's so like cut and dry black and white. but ultimately, yeah, you have to give yourself that closure, and that's how you know that you've really moved on from something is when you can go back, you can talk about it, you can take accountability for where you messed up without getting trapped in your feels and without that guilt and without that shame and without the other heavy emotions that would have normally come from discussing it.
No, it's true. Those are all definitely signs of closure. Well, so we already established this episode's on accountability. Do you want to pull a card for this?
Yep. Okay, card that I pulled is
Blurry.
yeah. It's blurry, but there we go. You can see it's the Ace of Wands. I think that's a good card for if we're talking about accountability. Ultimately, wands kind of represents the element of fire. It's going to be passion. It's going to be drive. It's going to be very like fast moving. And Ace of Wands is usually an indication of okay, get off your ass, get going with this. Put your gusto behind it. And well, I mean, really like take ownership and don't let anything slow you down and moving forward with with the things that you need to do. Yeah, like if it's healing from a toxic relationship or healing from a toxic workplace. I think I think bad jobs can like mess people up more than bad relationships can sometimes.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
So think for anybody watching or listening, I think this is your sign. Get off your ass, get busy, make those phone calls, book that therapy appointment, like whatever you got to do. Just get busy, getting over the issues and get busy getting healed.
I was actually at therapy last night.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I won't pry, but hopefully it was a good therapy session.
Anytime my therapist makes me emotional, I have a running joke, which is my therapist's name is Natalie, and I go, Natalie's a bad person. She gets a kick out of it. So, Jeff, pondering the word accountability, what kind of feelings or emotions does that bring up in you?
Well, I think when we're talking accountability, I think the inclination would be towards feelings like guilt, shame, or even I guess penance would be kind of a $1 million word to throw out at that. But ultimately, I don't think punishing yourself would be a good way to show accountability. I think kind of goes back to that one slide that you were showing. It's like, okay, well, if we can discuss these issues, if we can take ownership for the mistakes that we made, and to be able to say like, okay, well, I know better, I'm going to do better, without that guilt, shame, or feeling the need for some kind of penance or whatnot, then that's true accountability.
I think naturally the first emotions that come to mind for me are negative, like I failed at something or let someone down and I have to take responsibility for it. And I think that's true for a lot of us. The word accountability can have a very negative context. If you Google the word accountability, it comes to us in this context. An example is given of accountability often in a workplace setting. It is my goal for this episode to provide an alternative viewpoint with some positivity thrown in for good measure. Now, Merriam-Webster has this as a definition of accountability. Accountability is a noun. And it says the quality or state of being accountable, especially an obligation or willingness to accept responsibility or to account for one's actions. Now, indeed, accountability needs to be taken in many different settings from work life to personal life and in relationships. But we're going to dive into this from the relationship standpoint of things. When I say relationship, I'm talking about two different kinds of relationships: the relationship with oneself and a romantic relationship aspect with your partner or partners, as the case may be. Now, in regard to a relationship with oneself, you are the captain here. You solely have the ability to dictate what happens and what you have accountability for, like living situations, financial situations, personal freedoms, dietary choices, entertainment choices, friendships, education, failures, and success, just to name a few. These are all things that you personally are accountable for.
If I can interject for just 1 second, just celebrating the
Yeah.
small victories. Like as of today, I am back down to the weight that I was before the little dude was born.
Nice. Good job, dude.
So I think I definitely put on some pregnancy weight. It was about it was about 30 pounds that I had gained from through the pregnancy and through through a little dude being born and everything. But I am back down to. I mean, I've still got a ways to go. I'm still plugging away, but just taking accountability, celebrating those small victories. Like I've dropped the baby weight.
Very nice. I'm proud of you, man. It is possible that one of the things or a few of the things that I just listed might strike a nerve with you. And that might have started that little voice in the back of your mind that's rationalizing something that I just said. And it's trying to take accountability for it and shift the responsibility for it to the universe or another person or another deity or a situation or yada yada.
Mercury in retrograde.
Exactly. You need to give that little voice a Valium and sit back and listen for a while. Now, I'm going to drop a Gary John Bishop nugget on you. You must first attempt that while there are things that have, you must first accept that while there are things that have happened in your life that you had no say in, you are 100% responsible for what you do with your life in the aftermath of those events. Always, every time, no excuses. You change your life by doing, not by thinking about doing. This is one of my favorite quotes on accountability. When we shift accountability to an outside source, we remove our control of the situation. For example, we can all probably recall a time when we ourselves said, or when we heard someone say a variation of this: "Oh, my life is shit because this one ex of mine really shafted me when we split." I've heard it. Have you heard it?
Oh yeah. So I remember I remember an old meme. It's like a dude, homeless dude sitting on the street. Like, and the sign that he's holding up just says, "The ex had a better lawyer."
I mean, I'm fairly certain at one point or another, when I was in my developmental phase, I have said this.
I mean, not to knock the dude. I mean, like, you ever watch the documentary Tent City or whatnot, or what's kind of going on, like with economics, things like that currently. Yeah, most people are about like 2 missed paychecks away from being there themselves. So, so not to denigrate anybody's current situation or judge or anything like that. It was just, well, you get the gist of what I'm trying to say.
Yes. I personally split with an ex in 2022. I had purchased a house with my heterosexual life mate that was 5 bedrooms and just about 2,000 square feet. It has a monthly payment of over $2,000. We purchased a house that was big enough for him, my daughter, my girlfriend, her mother, her 2 children, and me.
And a
We
partridge
split
in
this
a pear
payment
tree.
3 ways, with her and I making the larger payments, and that was a fair split. The straw that broke the camel's back for our relationship is when she door dashed and Amazoned away her money and forgot about her part of the house payment. Sounds like a real shit sandwich, right, Jeff?
Yep. So, no, that's definitely a situation where I think natural inclination for most people would be to bemoan that lack of accountability and respect from the other party involved. But when you say shit sandwich, this also reminds me of something that I saw written in a bathroom stall once. It says, "Life is like a shit sandwich. So the more bread you have, the less shit you have to eat." So I guess when life serves you a shit sandwich, find more bread.
That's an interesting take. And yeah, I did have some conversation with friends where I vented and I was upset about the lack of accountability. And I took it also as a lack of respect because it was.
Hmm.
She just kind of did what she wanted to do and figured I would sort out the problem, which I did. She didn't like how I did it, but I did. Here's the accountability. I chose to make a home purchase that was larger than what was needed to accommodate my girlfriend with the understanding that she would be partially financial for this purchase. I made this choice. Yes, it was a choice that involved her and a verbal agreement. And at the end of the day, it was my choice to make. Her actions do not remove my accountability to the situation which I found myself in. Here is the relationship to self accountability. I was unwilling to financially support her and her family. I was unwilling to allow for her to repeatedly forget about her financial obligation to our living situation. I was unwilling to become a sugar daddy when that was never our agreement. In order to maintain a relationship with myself that was in line with my values, I had to end my romantic relationship. And just from the things that I experienced in that relationship, I could see how this would become a reoccurring thing and a track record. Oh, I got away with it once, so roll the dice and do it again. I wasn't down for that ride. She made her choices, but at the end of the day, the accountability for the outcome falls on me. Fans of Jocko Willink will call this taking extreme ownership. Right after this happened, I had to take a long, hard look at my employment. I felt disrespected, undervalued, and underpaid. The underpaid, I tried without success to resolve several times. Staying with my job and employment situation did not align with my personal values. I could not continue to work this job and be at peace with myself, and so I left. A new homeowner with a large overhead and just a tax return to turn it all around with. I split with my ex in January and I had split with my employer in February. I was gainfully employed in a job with a better schedule, benefits, better commute, and pay by March. By June of that same year, I had changed jobs and ended up in a work environment that matched my skill sets, values, and goals. Was it hard? Yeah, it was. Was it worth it? 1,000% yes. I take accountability for my situation, my financial obligations, and my relationship with myself. By choosing to take accountability and acting versus giving power to other people or situations, I turned my life around. If I had allowed myself to wallow in pity and shout to the mountaintops that I'd been robbed, I most likely would have lost the house and ended up homeless. And it's really true. I would have if I just sat there and wallowed in that misery, or if I had stayed in the relationship after something like that had happened and I consistently got shafted with her part of the responsibility, I would have been homeless. There was only so long I could maintain that burden by myself.
Yep.
Jeff, what are some things you've had to take accountability for?
Oh, well, I think we could probably just refer back to season one if we want to go over the dirty details of my past. But I think just touching on broader concepts regarding accountability that I've had to learn throughout the years. Because kind of the biggest area where I had to take a lot of accountability is in becoming a dad. So I mean, if you go back to season one, I mean, after what I'd previously gone through, like I didn't think being a dad or having a family was going to be in the cards for me at all. Like, and I definitely had built up some defenses regarding the situation because, mostly I didn't want to ever feel that kind of pain or betrayal again.
Very understandably so.
Yeah. But, as Jeff Goldblum said in Jurassic Park, life finds a way. So, so there's a lot of
I remember you talking about this. Like, you guys weren't planning on having kids. You were planning on getting snipped.
Yeah. So that's still the plan here because hey, we got a little guy. We're good there. So I need to take some accountability and make that appointment. But yeah, there's a lot of accountability there. Not only like having to do what one has to do to take care of the material needs of this tiny human that can't communicate other than crying and pooping itself for the most part, but also figuring out like what kind of values I'm gonna raise. We're gonna raise them with, and how to be a good example, how to be as good of an example as possible to them. And I can, this is, of course, in spite of how I think every parent doubts their parenting abilities sometimes. And yeah, we
Oh,
all just sometimes,
100%.
yeah, we all just pray that we're just praying we don't traumatize our kids the same way we were traumatized. But
I remember when Jackie was born, like, you hear so many people be like, as soon as I saw my child, it was just the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen, and I was instantly in love. And I didn't have that experience. I loved Jackie, but I wasn't just like all of a sudden so touched and moved that she was here and she existed. It took a couple weeks for me to get that bond with her. So like for a while I was like, am I fucked up? Am I broken? What's going on here?
and I know that I think I definitely had that experience where it's just, I mean, hey, you take a look at the little guy. I mean, when he came into this world and he just kind of like looked around the world with those big blue eyes, I mean, I think everybody couldn't help but fall in love with him at that moment. But I mean, not everybody feels that way. And it's like, and it's nothing wrong with you. It's just, the situation's different for everybody. I mean, everybody's kind of reaction, the emotions regarding that, like are different for everyone. I remember, I was watching this thing about postpartum depression, and just kind of helping a lot of, because with that, it's new research into postpartum depression says that like the male partners in the equation can kind of experience a degree of postpartum depression themselves. So there's just like a lot of heavy emotions in that. There's no right or wrong way to feel. And I mean, ultimately, I mean, you're gonna love your kids. You might not always feel that like immediate bond or whatnot, but I mean, yeah, you just give it some time. And
It's definitely a life-changing experience no matter what.
oh yeah, one way or another, it's definitely life changing. But no, but I love the little dude.
As you should.
So, but I guess aside from that major milestone, I think in recent years, learning to shed that yoke of constantly searching for external validation. So I think this goes kind of along with a deeper understanding of that whole learning to enjoy your own company. I think in my case, Jeff from the past had a bad habit of oversharing a lot of stuff on social media. So kind of gave a lot of people who didn't deserve it a window into absolutely everything that was going on in my life. And in the end, I didn't really ever get that validation I was seeking. I think I just kind of gave a lot of people a lot of reasons to look at me and judge me. And so I had to learn to self validate, and with that, had to learn to create. Sing, dance, create, not because you're wanting someone to see or hear what you're doing, but just because you have that primordial urge. You have to make shit. You have to create shit.
When we first met, we were both social media whores, without a doubt.
Oh yeah. So, but yeah, we're talking in context of relationships. Yeah, in past relationships, I've had to take accountability about the communication, learning to better communicate my needs, setting boundaries, and I think kind of a big one was learning that simply avoiding conflict isn't the same as effectively resolving conflict.
No, that's very much true. Avoiding things never gives you a completion.
So, yeah, like I think that was ultimately like the killer of my first marriage. Was the whole many years of like, oh, it's great, we never argue. It's because we just avoided resolving anything. And in the end, you find out like, okay, well, there's all these years of resentment that had built up for, shit that I thought like was over and done with, but nope. So yeah, just avoiding confrontation isn't the same as resolving it. So now, once again, kind of referencing that book, Conscious Loving, once again, Gay and Kathleen Hendricks. So I'll reference that a lot when it comes to relationship advice. I think that book's probably more than any other book that I read that helped me out the most. But I do think that the book can really just be summed up by saying that a conscious and evolved relationship is only going to be achieved between two radically accountable individuals that are both actively working on their own bullshit so that it doesn't spill out onto each other. So, and they have in here, they have the 6 essential co-commitments. And I'd like to kind of briefly go over these because I think these are kind of a good groundwork for what accountability looks like in relationships. So, says the first one is that I commit myself to be close and I commit myself to clearing up anything in the way of my ability to do so. So it's again schema therapy or things from early childhood, so on and so forth. I apologize. I hit the wrong thing here and lost my notes for a second, but okay, just recovered them. But yeah, schema from early childhood, family trauma, trust issues from past relationships. So whatever it is that's keeping you from being able to get close to the people in your relationships, you got to take accountability for that. You have to first become aware of issues that are standing in your way, and then do what you have to do is start healing those issues. So number 2 is I commit myself to my own personal development as an individual. So always be working on yourself, shadow work, inner child healing. You can't just stop doing that just because you're in a relationship, because, guess what? Nothing does more to highlight the areas where you may not have done all the personal development that's needed than once you're in a serious relationship. So then number 3, I commit myself to revealing myself entirely in my relationship and not to concealing myself. So this, I admit, is an area that I had to work on. So getting past that fear of being vulnerable because of having my vulnerabilities used against me in the past, and not just keeping quiet about things that bug you and just to try to keep the peace. So both parties need to be able to be open, honest, vulnerable, empathic, and forgiving. So there's no hidden bullshit going on, because hidden bullshit, especially hidden resentment, that's a relationship killer.
That really is. I really remember at the end of my marriage, like I had asked to do certain things, or if it was okay to buy certain things, just in general, had those conversations. Then all of a sudden at the end, she flipped that script and was like, well, I didn't like this, I didn't like that, and I didn't like this. We had a conversation. I asked you for permission. We talked about it. It was okay. And then all of a sudden it was like, that was a lot of resentment that got thrown at me that I was blindsided by because we had talked about it.
Yeah, been there, done that, bought the t-shirt, lost the t-shirt in the divorce. So, no, but I get it. Yeah, like, well, I'm not going to go too far into that. Don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but say like, I feel you, bro. So, but then number 4. And so I commit myself to the full empowerment of the people around me. So this isn't just romantic relationships, but you got to ask yourself, okay, am I building up the people around me, and am I encouraging other people to succeed, or am I bringing people down with needless drama and self-loathing? So take accountability. Like, be a fucking ray of sunshine in some motherfucker's life. So, then I commit to acting from the awareness that I am 100% the source of my own reality. So this one, like, I'd go back to some of the early Stoic philosophers, Marcus Aurelius, the whole, it's not what happens to you, but how you choose to react to what happens to you that shapes your destiny. Sure, PTSD, schemas, triggers, things like that, but you got to commit to doing the work to overcome those issues so that when you're in the face of those activating circumstances, that you can take back your power and you're no longer allowing that circumstance to control you. So, feel what you need to feel, honor those feelings, but learn how to control how you react and how you act upon it. So, easier said than done sometimes, but, give yourself credit for any active work that you're doing here because, progress, not perfection. Then,
feeling is a roller coaster, like we've said many times.
Yep. Progress, not perfection. You're going to screw up. You're human. So, and then the sixth and final one, I commit myself to having a good time in my relationships. So, it can be easy to settle into a routine, work, bills, chores. Why the hell can't we decide on what we're going to have for dinner? But how many relationships end up dying a slow death because people just get bored of each other and they just stop trying? So, there was a scene in the show Parks and Recreation that I loved when it came to illustrating little things to keep the magic alive in relationships. So you had, don't remember the character's name, I know it was like Aubrey Plaza and Chris Pratt that were in a relationship together, and they're moving in together, and they're getting a new place together, and they have to buy new stuff for the place. And Aubrey Plaza gets frustrated that they're having to spend all of their money on boring stuff like towels and silverware and crap like that. So Chris Pratt then responds to her with something to the effect of, like, yeah, being an adult and doing adult stuff is boring and soul sucking, but also I just saw a gun back there and it shoots marshmallows. And if you think that I'm not going to buy that gun so I can shoot marshmallows at your butt when you're not looking, then you're the stupidest woman I've ever met. And then she responds with, "That's the most romantic thing anyone has ever said to me." So, I definitely don't recommend calling each other stupid, but I think there's magic in finding someone you can just be chaotically stupid with sometimes. So, but personal philosophy, I just say, there's so much heaviness and just so much crap, and we weren't just put on this planet just to pay bills and die. And just in general, we need to get out and we need to play more.
No, that's fair. It's way too easy to just kind of fall into that trap of just get up, go to work, get home, pay bills, what's for dinner, go to bed, get up, go to work. It's really easy not to make time for the fun things in life. But after sharing that, I see why you do enjoy that book, and it seems like it has taught you some great things.
Yep, I think I need to. I've read the book twice, but I do think it's time for me to give it another reading, because it's every time you read it, you pick up something new.
No, I'm the same way with my Gary John Bishop books. I have them on my shelf up here next to me, and I reflect back to them. And just because I've read it doesn't mean I'm done reading it, because progress, man, up and down. I'm gonna have to go back and relearn some shit sometimes.
So I'm pretty sure, I could sum up all of Gary John Bishop's philosophy, in his own voice as such. It's like all his entire philosophy comes into this: quit being a fucking wanker.
And see, I jive with that, and there have been times I've been reading his books, and he does those little call outs where the little voice in the back of the head that needs the Valium starts going off. Oh yeah, Gary says this, but blah blah blah. Then he literally, right now you're telling yourself this, and fucking stop it and listen to me. And I'm like, fuck you, book.
Well, sometimes you need that. Sometimes you just need a good old fashioned kick in the ass or a slap upside the head. Somebody saying, just stop your bullshit, get over it. You know what you need to be doing. Get busy doing it.
And as a proud lifelong member of the School of Hard Knocks, I'm not going to say I've graduated because I'm still dumb. I need that sometimes. Sometimes, in order to take accountability for a situation, we need to step a bit outside of that situation in order to understand it more. Now, we already went over our tower moments in the last season, but I'm going to flip the script on part of my experience. And this is the aftermath, the healing part of that process I had to go through. Uh, there was a woman that I loved, and I wanted nothing more than to find a forever after with her. And we're going to call her V in this story. Now, I've shared this before. V cheated on me, and she gave me an STD, and it was thankfully easily curable. Just some medication and some awkwardness for 2 weeks, and better.
Ugh.
I didn't want to give up on the dream life that I had in my head that I had spent so much time thinking about and just trying to dream into existence. I caught V in several lies and let many things slip that my hyper aware, traumatized ass had caught on to. Because if you've been through shit like this before, you see everything. Sometimes you hear violent things. The more that V tried to push me away, the harder I tried to prove in whatever way possible that I was worth her time and I was a worthy partner. In my mind, I was worth it, and I just had to prove myself to her to turn things around. During this part of my life, I had an actual panic attack for the first time ever. I was depressed and I craved her attention, and no matter how badly she disrespected me, I just kept trying harder. This fucked with my head, my emotions, my heart, and I was an emotional wreck. I self medicated with alcohol and tried to find any opportunity to spend time with her and to make plans, no matter how many times she blew me off. And those plans fell apart, and every time it hurt deeper and deeper. It would throw me into a little mini depression every time. She showed me who she was, and instead of believing her, I kept trying to fix things that she never wanted to be fixed. I had flipped the script on myself. I kept telling myself that somehow I was not worth it, and V moved on because I fucked up somehow. I am personally accountable for how bad I let things get for me. I own the fact that as much as it would have hurt less if I'd walked away when V revealed her true colors. But I kept making myself available to V at all cost to my mental health. And now I'm not excusing her for her shitty behavior, but I am owning up to the fact that my inability to accept what was had ended caused me more damage than her shitty behavior. I hurt myself more than she was capable of by giving the idea of her and I being together power over my well being. I lacked a lot of self respect and healthy boundaries for myself back then, and I'm accountable to myself for how bad I played myself. Again, I could carry on about how bad she played me, but I have to accept accountability for the damage I did when I played myself. We often find people in the dating world who play the woe is me sympathy card with the hopes that it will attract attention and possibly a partner or a fuck buddy. Sometimes they don't even know that they're doing it. And the truth is, given enough time, people will tell us exactly who they are.
Yep.
Often they don't even mean to do it, but if you listen and pay attention, they will. We are all learning and growing, and none of us have this all figured out. But we are responsible for our growth. We have to be accountable to ourselves for who and what we accept in our lives, from friends to jobs, family, or romantic partners. By taking accountability and playing an active and thinking role in our lives and relationships, we directly empower ourselves to dictate what life we live. Jeff, what are your thoughts, man?
Well, I mean, ultimately, we're all human and we're all mortal, and we're all prone to doing some stupid shit at times. So, um, with this, like I've been there. Like I think a lot of people have been there. Um, the being, the white knight or whatever the situation is, just I guess best advice that I could give to anybody that's looking for the one. Um, you know, well, one, I mean, if you're looking for perfection, you're going to be waiting forever. But I mean, so many times you're going to run into people that their trauma has become their identity. So, and they may claim to have done healing and inner work, blah blah blah. But like you said, everybody tells on themselves sooner or later. So, and if you're not careful, you're going to find yourself losing all sense of yourself and catering to somebody that really has no intention of actually making any significant change. So, I mean, that finding somebody with a growth mindset, I mean, that is absolutely important when it comes to choosing who's going to be your partner. So, I mean, so you want to look for people, even if they don't have it all together yet, or, if they're demonstrating that they're committed to their own personal growth and accountability. Don't date projects that you hope that you can fix or that you can save, or, don't allow yourself to get into a situation with, like in this case, where it's just somebody who just doesn't give a shit, and you start to view like, okay, well, maybe I'm the project that needs to be fixed, and if I can just do the if I can just be good somehow, then I'll be worthy of that person's love. So I mean, don't allow yourself to get into any situation where its love is conditional. So again, that's kind of like an early childhood trauma thing that I think a lot of people have to
I was
resolve.
going to say that goes against my entire childhood. My love was very conditional.
If you grew up with conditional love, then you're probably going to wind up in repeating that cycle in relationships and getting into relationship situations with people who just don't give a shit, and they're anything that they give you feels entirely conditional. So once again, hey, once you're aware that this is what's going on, then you can make steps to break free of the bullshit. So but yeah, more or less, awareness is key there. But yeah, just don't date projects that you can hope that you can fix or save, and don't date people that make you feel that you're unworthy of their love somehow.
To carry on with your statement of don't date projects that you hope you can fix or save, I dated somebody a while after my divorce that was going through recovery. And I was like, okay, cool. So they're in recovery. And she's a great person. She's a beautiful person. That relationship was a fucking roller coaster with great highs and miserable lows. And I still think she's a great person. We don't talk anymore. It's part of my past. She has her life. I have mine. There's no ill will. But those things ended and life has gone on. But like, I met Shelby on Tinder. I downloaded Tinder out of boredom to swipe for something to do while watching Netflix. I never intended to really even meet up with anybody or talk to anybody on there. It was just something to do with my thumb watching TV. But I would actually read profiles on there. And there were some people I'm like, oh, this person's really cute. Oh, this person's in recovery. Good for you. No. We all have to learn our limits. So,
oh yeah, with that, I think it's not which program is it. I think it's one of the 12-step programs, basically saying like, okay, if you're in recovery, you are not in a place to be in a relationship. Yeah, I'm not sure which program it was. They recommend like, okay, well, how do you know when you're ready for a relationship? They're like, okay, well, once you're out, done with the recovery process, like first start with a house plant. You can keep a house plant like long enough for 6 months, then get a pet. If you can keep the pet alive long enough for 6 months, like then you might be ready to start dating again. So, but I mean, ultimately, like as a professional tarot reader, and I think this is kind of like the big thing that gives probably the one thing that's given me like all of my 1-star reviews on Keen and Purple Ocean is people like, well, when am I going to meet the love of my life? And when you have to say like, okay, well, I mean, you want me to be honest or tactful here? I ultimately, like, I could tell you what you want to hear and just throw some crap out there like, oh yeah, you're gonna meet the love of your life in 6 months at Applebee's, like, or the truth is for most people is no, you need to get that out of your mind. You need to not be focused on dating right now. You need to be focused on healing, recovering, finding yourself, like defining who it is that you actually are as a person. But and then once you are fully embroiled in fixing your own crap and finding your purpose and living your purpose, like then the right person might actually come to you. I mean, for me, I think the best relationships I've had in my life is, well, I mean, definitely the one that I'm in right now. Like, yeah, that came when I wasn't looking. So I think a lot of people, it's similar story. It's like you're gonna find the right people when you're not looking.
And I think a big part of that not looking ends up being you're in a spot where you're content with things.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you're not missing not having a partner, but you're comfortable with yourself. You're okay being alone and things are good.
Yep.
The people who are desperately lonely who will glom onto anything are the most dangerous ones.
Oh yeah.
So here are my final thoughts on accountability. We all have known or currently know someone who is miserable. No matter what happens, it is somehow never their responsibility, and they can provide a story that somehow removes the accountability from them. These are people you do not want in your life. Sometimes we're stuck with them in something like a work environment, and usually over time, they do get weeded out through their own actions. But it's the people who can't own up for anything or take accountability for anything aren't people you need in your circle who will benefit you in any way. I hope this episode has helped you gain a new perspective on accountability and how empowering it is to be accountable and to take ownership of your life. If you find yourself living in one of those woe is me narratives, I hope you can catch yourself and learn to redirect away from it. This is something that I have to do sometimes, not in this necessary category, but like I'll rehash some shit from my childhood and, for my Gary John Bishop book and the little nuggets I got from there. It'll be like shower time thinking about a memory when I was a kid. I'll be like, what did this mean? What did that? No, I'm not assigning new meaning to old bullshit. And that's kind of the mindset you have to be in to catch yourself in this stuff sometimes. Once you realize it's happening and you can pick it out as it happens, that gives you the ability to help resolve it. But yeah, I hope you can catch yourself and learn to redirect away from it. It's a skill like anything else, and it takes time, work, and practice. However, it really is worth it. I do recommend checking out the book Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink. If you want to take a deep dive into accountability, this is actually a book that we all read together at work, and it changed all of our lives in work and in personal lives for the better. And it really is a mindset, and it's a growth mindset, and having accountability is having power in your life. Jeff, anything you want to add, man?
No, I think it really comes down to that. One thing that I think we've been saying since the beginning of the podcast: nothing changes till you get sick of your own bullshit.
You're absolutely right. Nothing will change until you are sick of your own bullshit. People can give you the world's best advice, but if you are not sick of your bullshit, they might as well not give it. Well, man, it feels good to knock out another episode with you. We got more stuff on the way, more guests that I'm working with, but season 2 is back in action and we're going strong. So I hope if you haven't already that you take a chance to like, follow, and subscribe to the podcast. We are on all of the major podcast distribution networks: Spotify, Apple, Stitcher, all of those. We're also on YouTube. So this is no longer just a podcast. The video of tonight's episode is available on YouTube. If you look for Mental Flog on YouTube, you will find us. So if you do have any listener questions, comments, text us or leave a voicemail. It's the best way to get our attention. 801-810-7502 is that number. 801-810-7502. And just like in season 1, if you call in and you want to leave a voicemail, there is no fear of Jeff or I picking up the phone. It is set to automatically go to voicemail. You won't have to talk to us. Nobody's going to screw up you leaving a message. So you can kill the anxiety on that one. Anything else you want to add, brother?
So I want to get some listener questions here. So yeah, leave us some questions, and make some of them really weird so that I can see the look on Bishop's face and having to listen to some really weird questions. And
I swear to God, Jeff, if you start leaving fake messages, I will find you. All right, guys. Well, that is it for this episode of Mental Flog tonight. Thank you for giving it a listen. Please do share this with your friends. Share it on social media if you find what we have here to say valuable to you. We are a grassroots podcast. We do not pay for advertising. People find us by word of mouth or dumb luck. So the more you share, the more people that listen, the more interaction we get, the more listener questions we have. The weirder things get for Jeff.
It's although if anybody wants to sponsor us, I am not above being a product prostitute for money. So I will pimp the crap out of your product if you want to sponsor us.
All right, man. Well, let's call this one a wrap. Thank you, everybody, and you have a fantastic day, night, evening, whatever it may be while you're listening to this.
You know who made it?
Rock on.